So, Anuradha, I must get you in now. In the 1980s, as somebody playing cricket, as a member of the Indian cricket team, what was that like? And then having to organize the World Cup in 1987, had anything really changed by then? Because, even if you look at sort of the images out of auditoriums and stadiums 3, 4, 5 years ago, you didn't see the kind of packed at the seams crowd that we saw in Mumbai this time. What do you remember about the toughest bit about being a woman in cricket? Can you unmute yourself, Anu? I think you're muted at your side. Yeah.
Okay, so first thing I want to say is that this victory, according to me, is not just that is bringing people to the ground, more girls will follow, but to my mind, is being recognized as a women's game. Till now, I mean, at least when I was playing and when I was managing, it was like you are playing a man's game. You know, it's like women's tennis. Till Billie Jean King, Navratilova came, then it got recognized as a women's game. Something distinct from men's, same game, but it was recognized. It's not that you are copying men and playing their game. So, to my mind, the biggest significance of this victory is that it's going to be now recognized as a women's game per se, and not
By which you mean a separate sport that women.
absolutely not that we are copying men. I remember going on one channel with Sidhu, and he said, "Oh, you are copying boys. You are trying to, play the way they play." So that I think myths should come to an end. Now,
Harman, sorry, on that point, the captain was wearing a T-shirt. There's this viral image. I think we have it also. And the T-shirt said, "Cricket, not a gentleman's game, everyone's game." And
exactly.
I think that's the point that she wanted to make. That
So,
yeah,
it's now recognized as a women's sport. It's not that I'm playing something which men play. So
yeah.
that, according to me, is very, very important for people to come to the ground, for people to take up the sport, for sponsors to come, that yes, this is a separate sport for women. And they do well. I mean, there's nothing as victory. I mean, that's what brings the nation together in every sport. Now, in 80s, early 80s, when I was playing, we used to, pay for travel, etc. I think
Yourselves.
yes. Uh, I did rebel at that time, and I used to tell the girls, don't pay. If they don't want to take us, let
Yeah,
them not take us. But
yeah.
that apart, most of the girls played for passion. I took over in 91 or so, 91, 92. And the first thing we tried to ensure was that the girls don't play for travel or, where they stay. 97 World Cup was also a big moment because we got a sponsor. We got a big sponsor in Hero, Mr. Munjal, B.M. Munjal. He gave us a good check where we could, take everybody around and put them in hotels, pay our girls for playing. It was very little money, but at least we tried to professionalize. But I think since the merger, uh, BCCI has put in, I'm presuming, I don't follow administration part anymore. I just follow the cricket, men and women cricket.
Yeah.
But the resources are there. So, there's more professionalism. And in 70s, 80s, there were brilliant players like Shanta, Dinah, but things didn't come together because there were not enough resources. There was no team cohesion. I remember seeing Chak De India and saying, "Oh boy, is this not familiar?" But this team looks very, very united,
Yeah.
happy, enjoying the game, and I think that has what has allowed it to, be so successful.
Joy, let me bring you in on this analogy. This is women's cricket 1983 movement. I have no idea why in some Biden brain fog we have been calling it 1983 sort of moment. Personally, there's a lot of argument this analogy has triggered. Because literally, I mean, when Anuradha reminds us that women had to pay their way just to play the match, it's like saying, oh, if you want to play, pay for yourself. Nobody's really interested in investing in you as sports people. From then to now, when you couldn't get a seat for love or money at the stadium last night. What a change! That said, still so much is difficult. Shefali Varma. When you look at her, her father had to enroll her as a boy. She had to disguise her gender to be able to play cricket. There's also sort of abject poverty and struggle that happens with some male cricketers as well. One of the most moving bits, and I'll play out that little interview excerpt in just a moment, has been Amanjot's father. Amanjot, of course, took a game-changing catch, and her father is a carpenter. And when they didn't have money to buy a bat, he actually made his daughter her first bat, and there he is sobbing in tears of pride at the fact that that struggle has actually led to this big moment. So when we keep saying, hey, this is like women's cricket's 83 moment, this is like that World Cup win, is it really like that World Cup win, or is that a tone deaf analogy?
I think it's much more. I mean, first I'd like to just thank Anuradha ma'am, because in 1997 when she organized that World Cup in India, there was a certain lady, young lady who was a ball boy there, enthralled by the game, and Julan Goswami went on to represent India for many many years after that. And
Yeah,
only if you open doors like that, if you put it
yeah.
in front of people, are girls going to come into cricket. And I think this is a much larger journey. And I think one of the things that has made it even bigger, one is that the media is much bigger. In social media, the ability for uh, situations to snowball, for people to come together and sort of rally around something, has become much bigger. And I think what has also happened is that, if you notice, this has not been an easy journey in this World Cup. We lost three matches. We lost a match against Australia. We thought we'd win. We lost against England. We lost against South Africa. People started writing us up. So the whole drama of it became much more stark, because you suddenly play the best team in the world, a team, no team in world cricket has a record like the Australian women's cricket team. No team, not even the Australian men's cricket team. And to them beat them, have this absolutely incredible semi-final. So it's all set up for a much much bigger moment, because you're walking through, as rightly said, all cricket in 1983 had to do was become a bigger game than hockey in India, and that is what it did. And unfortunately, hockey has never recovered. What this has done is just not talking about cricket in India; it's about women's sport in India. And I think this is a milestone moment for women's sport in India. It is truly amazing to watch. And I mean, sometimes lots of comments are made about women's cricket, and you see somebody making a tone deaf comment and it going unnoticed, or nobody's just commenting on it. Today, when they make those same comments, a former board president turning around and saying women shouldn't play cricket, and now suddenly guys are saying, you guys were saying women
Yeah.
shouldn't play. So they've taken this as a moment to rally around. And I think Indian sport will change forever. Forget women's sport. Indian sport has changed by what has happened yesterday.
I mean, that's N. Srinivasan that you make a reference to, who actually made a comment saying that the only reason that he was, backing women's cricket is because he had to, because the board was forcing him to. There's an old clip, I haven't checked its, where it was said, but sort of Ganguly is being quoted as having said that, oh, women don't need to play cricket. I mean, I don't know, Sharda, you can tell us more if you've seen that clip. But I want to come to this 83 moment, because this is the sort of media cliches that often define a narrative. And when we, yes, not to take away anything from the 83 World Cup win, not to take away anything from how, the movies tell us male players had to struggle. But that struggle cannot compare with how women have had to struggle and how women are still struggling. So I want Sharda, Shikha, and Anu to respond on this 83 analogy before we move on to some of the other aspects of what this win means. Sharda, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think the 83 analogy is sort of using the male lens to see this with, which is incorrect. You have to use the lens of the woman cricketer, the female cricketer, what access they had, how did they get here, what is still available to them. What this will do is it will open doors. So a very interesting thing was pointed out to me by Rika Roy. She said, "Look, if you go through, which is," she said, "Look, it's public in public. It's not my discovery, but she did point it out. She said, look at where all the players, the majority of players in this team come from." She said towns like Sangli, like Moga, like Siliguri, so
Yeah.
all around the country in the small towns. So this is actually what has happened. This is the it's the succession of the 2017 story, which Shikha will remember. So these are the younger players that came through, that followed her generation. They looked at that. They said, "We want to be Harman. We want to be Smriti. We want to be Mitali." That's the generation that has come through, and now literally it'll explode even to a greater degree, because they've seen this cup, they've seen this title, and the fact that the women cricketers have a very close link with their past is also very important, and it was played out through all the all the celebration after the win, and they called them into the celebration. Jemima said that this is for the people that were before us, who continued playing when, but they could have stopped. It was so difficult in the 1970s. They continued playing. This is for them, and this is for the generation to follow. Now that kind of a statement, and Shikha said, it's a statement, and so that thing has sort of a ripple effect that it'll just keep escalating. It's not it's not a watershed. It's going to be a flood of talent is going to come through.
Since we're talking about the women who came before, let me go back to Anu before I come to Shikha. Anu, Joyce spoke about Julan. And Julan was sobbing yesterday. She was just sobbing in those pictures. And there's this little clip where I think Smriti Mandana tells her, "I'm sorry we couldn't do it for you last time." And Julan tells the story about how, the cricketers had come to her room and they had told her, one day we're going to do this for you. And it's very interesting that Joy links back Julan's emotions to where it all started when you were playing cricket, when you were trying to organize the World Cup. Do you remember Julan at all from that time?
Well, I do remember because when she came into the Indian team, I was there. She, Anjum Chopra, Mithali, I've interacted with them as an administrator. But what I wanted to tell you was, see, 83 was where the men's cricket, they started believing they can win. In India, you also have to remember, you can't compare men and women sports because our society is still traditional, conservative, and to allow a girl into sports is not something that we are emancipated enough to do regularly. So, that according to me, since it's now becoming a women's game, more parents will allow their girls to say, okay, go out and look at the prize money that they're getting. Outstanding. And this is what at the end of it, it's like your army. Okay, they do it for the country, but they have to be paid. It's the same thing. Our girls want to go and make a career out of it. So what this is showing is that girls can make a career, and that's why they were not being allowed, because you will become like a boy. Who will marry you? What will you do after marriage? Now, mold, I'm hoping will break to some extent, of course, and not going to break totally, because our society is still to evolve a lot more. But that mold, I'm hoping, there'll be some breakthrough in this mold, that girls can't make this as a career.
Shikha, talk about that. I mean, if you weren't in the Air Force already when you also started playing, cricket, and the Air Force came earlier, and therefore you're an Air Force officer who also plays cricket internationally. How tough would it have been to be a professional cricketer alone if you didn't have, in a sense, the security of the uniform?
It was difficult. Like I said, I was a 90s kid. So I have had so many state-mates of mine who used to play cricket with me. They had to leave cricket because they had to then search for a job. I was very lucky. I had a very supportive family, and they were okay. After finishing engineering, after I completed engineering, I got placed in 3 multinational companies. And I said, no, I took a year off. And it was only after that that I joined Air Force, and I was told that it is services. Hopefully, you'll get to play cricket alongside. It was a leap of faith for me. And the only employment giving organization in India for women who want to pursue sports is Railways. And I had an engineer's degree. I wouldn't do justice to my education if I had joined Railways. So in a way, I got very lucky. I was there at the right time at the right place. And Air Force Sports Control Board, they were so helpful. Would like to mention Air Vice Marshal Baladitya. He was Services Sports Control Board Secretary. He was the one who was instrumental. I had no clue that in the background he was talking to Sandeep Patil sir. He spoke to them about me. I just knew that I had joined Air Force. If I get to play, okay. If I don't get to play, I'll probably just be an Air Force officer. So the person I am today is probably also because I have these two faces of the
Yeah.
coin. So I got
Yeah.
very lucky. I have so many players. When we played the 2017 World Cup, at least 11 of them were from railways, which is not the case anymore. Now central contracts have come into being. You have a WPL, which the fourth edition will start really early. There are players who are now leaving railways if they don't get enough opportunities, because now they can play in WPL and they have job security, they have monetary benefits. And having said that, I still think there is so much more to be done in terms of grassroots investments and everything.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this is just the beginning. This is not the end. Winning the World Cup is not the end. This should have happened in 2017. There's a lot of work which is done, but there's so much more which needs to be done.
Yeah, and to this point that if 83 for the men was we can win, then I think to that extent, to that limited extent, this moment could be that we can win. This is our beginning. This is not our end. But I want to come to this thought that earlier you had to be in the police service, you had to be in the railways, you had to basically be an employee of government if you had to survive as a woman in sport, and even some of the non-cricket sports for men. So I think for a woman in sport, what Anuradha is talking about, this social bias, I don't think it's gone. You have Amanjot's father, who's a carpenter, who talks about how when he decided to encourage his daughter to play cricket, the community would taunt him and they would say these things that she'll be like a boy, nobody will marry her. The sort of premium we place on marriage for girls continues to be one of our structural, I would say, barriers to women making freer choices. You've been in this game, you've managed it like Anu. How do you see the shifts? What has changed and what is still not changed?
I think a lot has changed, but I think the point that Shika is making is a very valid point. You see, 90% in 95%, let me not say 90%, 95% of sport in India, women are allowed to play because they can get a secure job. Okay. And most often that secure job is either the railways, the services, local excise, customs. These are very, very standard situations. Air India used to be, Indian Airlines,
Mhm.
Airlines used to be at one time. So the point is, this has gone only in women's cricket. Women's cricket is the one place where in the WIPL somebody could get 2.5 crore rupees and not have to bother and say that I'm going to play. It doesn't matter. This is going to pay me enough for me to take opportunities myself. And it's a fantastic thing. Recently, I was hearing about. I'm not going to mention who it is. WIPL Indian cricket star who's probably moving from one franchise to another franchise. She's leaving her franchise though being retained, and they're saying that maybe we'd offer her 2.5, 3 crores, she'll stay. And the point I'm trying to make is not about the fact that whether she should go or she should stay, but the fact that such figures are being bandied around, and you are saying, you know what, if I don't get my worth here, I'll move to another franchise. And I think that's fantastic. The truth is, women's top level women's cricket, we are talking about 20, 25, not even 20, 25, perhaps 15, 20 women in India can command that kind of price and situation with the WIPL. For the rest, it is still a government job. For the
WPL.
rest, it is still a job, and therefore there's so much more to do. I've been running a volleyball league for 5 years now, and one of the things I want to do is start a women's volleyball league. The problem I have is that if you don't have a pool of good enough players, 45, 50 good enough players, then you'll show volleyball which is not exciting, and then it will regress further. The point is, it's chicken and egg, because what you want to do is also, if you put it out there, there will be women. Women are watching. They want to play sport, but this chicken and egg is such a big thing in Indian sports. So somebody has to put a leap of faith and start
Yeah.
investing a bit. I think the opportunities are there to invest now. They weren't there before, and it's so funny. Let me tell you one thing. I've because I work with Baseline and a lot of these firms, I work with women's cricket a fair amount. And one of the biggest problems of women's cricket is the fact it is the same as any Indian outdoor sport. uh, the girl will turn dark, her complexion will turn dark. And that is one of the single
My
biggest
God.
barriers stopping people to play women's sport. And this is
I
something
mean,
we have
this is still happening.
repeatedly, I've heard it at the grassroots level. I mean, there are times when the father has said, my daughter wants to play, the mother is saying, Kali ho jayegi, shadi kaise hoga? And this is literally, I mean, these are realities. I mean, it's great. There's
Yeah.
fantastic things happening, but there's so much more to do. It's not even funny.
And that is the only reason I rejected the 83 analogy. I get the whole sort of this is the winning moment, it's the turning point. But I mean, I don't think people say these things to men in sport. They don't say, Shadi kaise hogi, aap kale ho jaoge, aapka rang badal jayega. Sharda, let's talk for a moment, and also Anu and Shikha, picking up on what Joy has said, that the social bias, we're celebrating these women now because they've won. Till before the semis, I mean, we've seen awful, cruel trolling of some of these players. We have seen little comments saying, go back into the kitchen. We have seen Jemima Rodriguez mocked for her belief in her faith, right? In the worst possible way. We have seen Jemima do something actually extraordinary, talk openly about the fact that she battled anxiety and she would cry all the time. These are very, very powerful moments, but they're also very, very vulnerable moments. And we, in this celebration, let's not forget or lose track of how tough it's been for all of them. This trolling, this social bias that Joy says is still so deep rooted. How do you see it?
Um, it is the way it is for Indian women in sport. It is the way for the majority of Indian women that are out there. I had a really weird thought last night when the match finished. I said, "Oh, I'm so glad that the girls, the hotel was close by, so they didn't have to like have a long journey at night." And this is just a
Right.
normal female response to, just
Yeah.
idiot. It's just an idiot
Yeah.
thinking. This is a sports team; they'll be looked after. And the whole, it's a very to me, I look at it as a complete contradiction, because in these women that are there, these 30 women, what you're seeing is them playing to their top physical ability, their top athletic and skill ability, and they are able to put their bodies on the line. And that, for the outside of the rest of the world, when they go away, that's, they can do whatever they want on the field with their bodies, but when they go away, they have to be, good girls again. So that whole good girl thing comes back into, and therefore there's this trolling, therefore there's all this thing about Kali ho jayegi, shadi nahi hogi, all these things. So it's so important that other young women today, young girls, can switch on the TV and see them. And that's why Shikha pointed out, in 2017, for the first time we saw the women play. We had no idea what they played like, and for them to be seen and to be visible. So in a way, there's always this pull and tug that's happening with women's sports, which does not happen with the men at all. It's not there at all. Whatever else economic hardship they
Yeah.
may face, they do not face this sort of social constraint, which is why these girls are so extraordinary, and their stuff is so fabulous.